All right, so just for a little bit, let's dive in a little bit deeper into Kotlin. So, if you guys ever had any experience with, a programming language like Java or any other object-oriented programming language, you probably know that when you create a property in a class, we would have to create a getter or setter to retrieve a value from an object or to set a value to an object or to provide a new value to an object. In Kotlin, this is auto-generated, and if you guys never had any programming experience before that and you don't know what I just meant, let me show you guys what I mean. So we have this instance of a house, right? And we set the value to green for the color, and we set the value for rooms to 5. So now, if we want to get that value, all we got to do is use the variable that's holding that instance of that class or the object, and then we just do dot color to get that value. All right. And if we run this, we should expect to see green. Now, if we want to set that value, which means to assign it a value, we can do that too. I can change this to red if I want to. All right. And let me print that out just to show you guys. So if I print out house dot color and I run this again, boom, green and red. And that's because this is also a var, so it's mutable. That means I can change it. But that's how we set the value. This is a setter, and when we're trying to print it out, when we're using the dot color, we're not assigning a value, we're just getting the value. So these are setters and getters, and under the hood, Kotlin is generating that for us. In previous language and other languages, we would have to define functions to set a value, to assign a value to a variable or property. We will have to have another function to get that value from the object. But in this case, we're able to just set and get because Kotlin does that under the hood for us. It's auto-generated. Now, the cool thing about Kotlin is that it does give us the option to change that if need be. If we want access to those functions, we do have access to it. Now, let me show you guys how to do that as well. So if I go into this house class, right, and I put get, well, you guys already see IntelliJ is already giving me clues, but if I put get and open close parentheses and I make that equal to, let's make this equal to black, right? This is pretty much just saying that every single time I try to retrieve, this property or try to get the value of this property, I'm gonna make this equal to black. Now, if I run this, no matter how many times I set it to different things, so here I set it to green and here I set it to red, when I run this, what you guys think is gonna look like? It's gonna be black twice, because whenever I try to get the value, right, I'm assigning it to black. I'm making it black. So no matter how many times I try to set it, it's gonna be black. Now, by default, it's usually just gonna be filled, and this is the variable name that they use, but it's filled. That's why filled is not assigned anywhere, but it still works because this is what's holding the value that I'm setting. And whenever I use that get, now if I run it again, it worked like it did before. Filled is pretty much just holding the values that I set, which is green and red. Now, I also have the option to adjust the set function. So we just saw the get function. Whenever we try to retrieve a value, this is what's being returned. This field is being returned. Now, where is that field variable being changed? Where's this data coming from? So if we do a set, and as you guys see again, IntelliJ is giving me clues, and we have this parameter. This is value. This is the value that we're passing in. So in this case, it'll be red and green. This doesn't have to be the word value. It can be whatever we choose. We can use data as well. And then we can open up some brackets. And then here is where the logic is going to be. All right. So here we use the variable name field, just like the field here. This is why it knows what field is, because by default field is used in the set function. And we're going to make that field equal to data. So this is how it knows, like, all right, we're passing in a value that we want to be set. So we're making this equal to red. This red goes to here. It's now red. Data holds that red value, and we're setting the field equal to red. So this data is the same thing as red because it's being passed in, and now field is equal to red. So then whenever we try to get something, fields, the current value of field is red, so it's gonna get that red value. But we can also do the same thing here. What if we don't pass in data that the user is trying to put in? We can also we can make this purple. And whenever we do the set, we do have to initialize the value here, so we can just make this an empty string. But then that will all be changed when a set is done and when a get is done. So if we run this, we should expect to see purple, because look, whenever I try to do a set, right, no matter what the person passes in, I'm just gonna put purple. And now that this field value is equal to purple, whenever I try to do a get, it's just gonna take this field that I'm assigning the value to, which is purple. So it's always gonna be purple. So in a cool sense though, we could add some logic to it. So here, let's do a set, right? And we can do that, and this also has to be initialized. When we try to adjust the set, we have to initialize it. So we're just gonna make this equal to 0. And what if we have a person pass in a value for rooms, and for some reason we want to double it? For some reason, we can just do field, and we have access to the value that the user passed in, right? So we can just do value, and if we want to do some other stuff too, we could. So if I want to times it by 2, I could do that. And if I want to print that out so you guys can see, for some reason I have double the rooms, and I'm gonna just pass in a string template real quick that holds the house dot rooms. So look, you guys see that, look, I'm passing in green and I'm passing in the room as 5s. I never set the value of 5. I never set the room amounts anywhere else. I know it's gonna be 5, but then when I get here, I'm setting that value that I'm passing in, which is 5, and I'm multiplying it by 2. So what should I expect to see? Some quick maths. If I run this, I should expect to see 10. So I doubled the rooms. So these are the things that you have access to do. Yes, Kotlin handles some things, in the background, but you have access to manipulate the logic if need be. And Kotlin gives you the freedom to do that. So that's the cool thing about Kotlin. You have setters and getters, and we can just change this back into fields, and it should work as it did before. Oh, what is going on? Oh, my bad. See, that's where I messed up. It's data. I make mistakes too. So boom, green and red. So field didn't have a value, so it was empty. But now I know that the data that the user is passing is going to be what I assigned the field, and that field is going to go to whatever that user tried to retrieve. So cool stuff. If you guys ever want to change the logic of the get or set, you can do that just by putting it under the property and assigning and using these variables.